At her cousin's birthday, my 7-year-old was forced to stand outside for 6 hours, watching all the other grandkids celebrate without her. "This party is not for cheaters' kids," my mother-in-law told her. I didn't shout. I did this. 3 hours later, their lives started to collapse. My daughter Ruby had been vibrating about this party for a week. She'd drawn Harper 3 different birthday cards because the first 2 weren't special enough. She'd practiced what she'd say when she handed over the present. She'd even asked me if I thought Grandma Linda would sit next to her this time. So as I walked up the familiar path to Linda's house that afternoon, I already had my standard pickup line loaded. "Did you have fun? Did you eat too much cake? Did you—" And then I saw her. She was standing on the side of the porch, right by the railing, not talking to anyone, not moving, just there, in the same blue dress I'd dropped her off in, hair still in the half-up style we'd done together that morning, party shoes, no coat. I lifted my hand and waved. "Hey, bug." She didn't wave back. That shouldn't have been a big deal, but it was the first tiny crack. It wasn't freezing outside. No visible breath in the air, nothing dramatic. Just that damp, early spring chill that's fine for car to door, but miserable if you stand still in it long enough. Ruby's shoulders were hunched in a way I recognized from soccer fields. The "I'm cold, but no one told me I'm allowed to say it" hunch. I quickened my steps. "Ruby?" I tried again. She turned her head a little, like it took effort. Her face came into view in pieces. Flushed cheeks, but not from running around. Patchy redness around her eyes. The shiny look you get when you're out of fresh tears, but not out of feelings. Her lips were dry and pressed together. Up close, I saw her hands. She was holding them against the skirt of her dress, fingers curled, knuckles pink from cold. My stomach did a slow, heavy roll. "What are you doing out here?" I asked. I kept my voice light, like we were playing a game and I hadn't realized it yet. "Did you come out for air?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked past me toward the front window. I followed her gaze. Through the glass, I saw the end of a party. Crumpled paper plates, pizza boxes stacked on the counter, Harper in a plastic tiara, laughing with her other cousins, her mother Amber moving around with a trash bag. My mother-in-law Linda at the far end, leaning over to wipe frosting off some younger kid's face, smiling in that best grandma way she likes to project. It looked exactly like the scene Ruby had been imagining, for everyone else. A sound came out of Ruby that might have been a breath or a tiny sob. Then, very quietly, she asked, "Mom, what does a cheater's kid mean?" Everything in me went very still. "What?" My voice sounded wrong in my own ears. Too soft. Too careful. She glanced at the window one more time, then down at her shoes. "Grandma said it," she whispered. "She said, 'This party is not for cheaters' kids,' and then she said I'm one. So I had to stay out here so the real family could have fun." The words were small, but they hit like someone dropping a drawer full of silverware. "She said that?" I managed. Ruby nodded, once, quick, guilty, like she was bracing for me to be mad at her. I swallowed whatever sound tried to claw its way out of my throat. "Come here," I said, because anything else might have cracked me open on the spot. She stepped into my arms like someone had cut her strings. Her body was stiff from holding itself together too long. I wrapped my coat around her shoulders, warming her hands between mine. Her breath hitched against my collarbone. That was enough. More than enough. "Stay with me," I murmured. She nodded again. Then I turned toward the door. Not marching, not charging, just walking. Very calmly. Like I was delivering a casserole. Like nothing inside me was on fire. I rang the bell. It took a few seconds. I imagined Linda smoothing her sweater, adjusting her expression to the one she likes to use at church potlucks. The door opened. Well, look who... Oh. Her smile dropped half an inch. You're early. I'm on time, I said. My voice was steady, which surprised even me. Why was Ruby outside? Linda blinked at me with that airy, innocent confusion she saves for when she absolutely knows what she's done. Oh, she wanted to be out there, she said. Fresh air. You know how kids are. Fresh air, I repeated. She nodded brightly. She could have come in whenever she wanted. Behind her, the party remnants were still buzzing. Kids talking, chairs scraping, someone licking frosting off a plate. A life Ruby had literally watched through glass. Ruby, I said, keeping my eyes on Linda. Did you want to be outside? I felt Ruby shake her head against my shoulder. Linda's smile tightened. Well, she misunderstood then. She got herself all upset. Sensitive children invent problems. She said you told her the party wasn't for cheaters' kids, I said. She said you told her she's not real family. Linda's expression flickered, just enough to show the truth before she shoved it back under something self-righteous. I wasn't going to let her ruin Harper's day, she snapped. I wasn't going to have that child in the photos. Do you think it's fair to Harper? Or to me? My hands warmed Ruby's shoulders. They were the only thing keeping me from shaking. So you left a 7-year-old outside, I said. All afternoon. Linda folded her arms. Actions have consequences, Lydia. Maybe if you hadn't made the choices you made, things would be easier for everyone. There it was, hung in the air like a rotten ornament. The thing she's always circling. The thing she finally said in front of my kid. Okay, I said quietly. Linda frowned. Okay? Thank you for being clear, I said. I needed to hear it from you. Her mouth opened, probably to tell me I was being dramatic, or sensitive, or ungrateful, or something else she's been rehearsing for years. But I didn't stay. I turned, walked down her porch, held my daughter tighter. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I strapped Ruby into her seat, tucked the blanket around her legs, and kissed the top of her head. Mom? She whispered. Are you mad? Not at you, I said. Never at you. Then who? I closed her door gently. I'll handle it, I said. She watched me through the window, eyes wide, trusting. I got behind the wheel, started the car, and pulled away from the curb with a calmness that felt almost surgical. I did something they didn't expect, and 3 hours later, their lives started to collapse. If you'd told me years ago that I would one day pull my daughter off a porch where she'd been exiled like a Victorian ghost child, I would have laughed, maybe cried a little from stress, and then reminded you that I'm not the kind of woman who ends up in that kind of family drama. But here we are. People always want to know when everything went wrong. The thing is, it didn't go wrong all at once. It went wrong the slow way, the quiet way, the way you don't notice until you're standing on a porch with a freezing 7-year-old asking what a cheater's kid is. So let me back up, but only far enough to make sense of the explosion. I met Miles at work. He's my husband now, which still feels strange to say out loud sometimes, considering the way it started. That's how this whole mess begins. Fluorescent lights, burnt coffee, terrible break room chairs, and a man with tired eyes and a polite smile that looked like it was held together by habit and caffeine. We were friendly coworkers first, the kind where you accidentally shine a flashlight into each other's souls during lunch breaks without quite meaning to. Then one evening, over lukewarm Chinese takeout, he said it. I should tell you something. I'm technically still in a relationship. In my head, alarms went off like a Vegas slot machine. In real life, I just nodded and took a sip of tea like I had emotional insurance. But he didn't flinch. It's basically over, he said. Has been for a long time. I told her. She didn't want to hear it. He said it the way people confess to crimes they never meant to commit. more tired than guilty. And I believed him, not because I'm naive, but because everything in him matched the story. The way he talked about her, the way he talked about himself, the way he looked so defeated every time he mentioned going home. Still, starting something with him felt like walking a tightrope over a canyon full of judgmental family members. Spoiler, that's exactly what it was. What I didn't know then, but learned later in pieces, like finding puzzle parts under a couch, was that his entire relationship with that woman wasn't built on romance. It was built on pressure. His mom loved her. His sister loved her. The neighborhood probably had embroidered throw pillows with her name on them. Miles, meanwhile, felt like a supporting character in his own life. "Everyone said I was lucky to have her," he told me once, in the tone of a man reciting a eulogy for a relationship he never chose. I didn't feel lucky. I felt drafted. Imagine dating someone because your entire extended family has already fallen in love with the idea of you two. Imagine trying to break up and being told, "Are you sure? Are you sure you're not making a mistake? She's perfect. You'll regret this." Imagine hearing that since you're old enough to vote. So yes, I was the first decision he made for himself. His first act of rebellion. His first, "I'm doing this because I want to, not because you told me to." And his family reacted. Well, exactly how you'd expect a family used to choreographing their children's lives to react. For the first month, I genuinely thought things might be okay. Linda greeted me politely. Amber even smiled at me. His parents asked normal questions. Nobody hissed, nobody threw holy water. It was fine. Then the cracks started. A joke here. A long silence there. A look that lingered half a second too long. Someone, teasingly, called me a homewrecker in the kitchen during a holiday dinner. I laughed because that's what women do when someone insults them in a tone too light to fight properly. They didn't stop. It wasn't dramatic. Not yet. Not even mean. Just sharp. Off. Like they were measuring me against a ghost and I kept coming up short. It was around then, when the jokes stopped being jokes, that Miles finally told me the part he'd been avoiding. We were sitting in bed, the house quiet, the kind of moment where truths slip out because lies take too much air. "She wasn't just my girlfriend," he said. "She was my mom's best friend's daughter." It hit with an ugly click. Of course, Linda wasn't mourning a breakup. She was mourning a legacy, a story she'd rehearsed for years. "And she still talks to them," he added, rubbing the back of his neck. "But it's strained. She blames me. And you. She thinks losing them ruined everything." He said it apologetically, like he was confessing weather he couldn't control, which honestly he couldn't. He'd been raised to keep the peace, to make himself small so his mother's world stayed big. Standing up for me, and later Ruby, required a spine he hadn't grown yet. Then Ruby was born, and visiting Linda's house became a masterclass in subtle humiliation. Amber's daughter, Harper, was the golden grandchild. Always first. Always praised. Always front and center. And the ex's child, yes, the ex's, was treated like honorary royalty whenever his mother or grandmother came by. Linda lit up around him like he was proof she hadn't lost everything. Ruby hovered, close enough to be present, far enough to be forgotten. At birthdays, she'd be handed the last cupcake. At holidays, she sat at the edge of the couch while the special kids took the spotlight. At one gathering, I watched Linda lift the ex's toddler onto her hip while brushing past Ruby like she was part of the furniture. And I told myself, it's subtle. It's survivable. She would never actually hurt her. I told myself that right up until the day Ruby stood outside a locked door, waiting to be let back into a family that never planned to open it. And that's when everything truly broke. If you've never filed a police report on your mother-in-law, I don't recommend it, but I also kind of do. Urgent care was the first punch. The police station was the second. There's something about watching an officer write down your daughter's temperature and the phrase "forced to remain outside during family gathering" that makes the world tilt in this slow, surreal way. Like, oh, this isn't family drama. This is an incident. Ruby sat beside me, swinging her legs, wrapped in a blanket someone at urgent care had given her. She was sipping a juice box, pink-cheeked and tired, like this was the world's strangest after-school activity. I wasn't shaking anymore. I'd burned through shaking. The officer asked questions. I answered them calmly. Too calmly. The kind of calm that means a woman has passed the event horizon of patience. When it was done, he said, "We'll follow up." I nodded, thanked him, and didn't look back. By the time we pulled into the driveway, the sun was setting and my hands were ice on the steering wheel. Not from nerves, just from whatever happens to your body when your brain decides a whole new chapter of your life has begun. Miles came to the door the second I stepped inside. "Hey, how was—" He saw Ruby. He saw the blanket. He saw my face. His voice crumpled in the middle of the sentence. "What happened?" I handed him the paperwork. He read the first line, then the second. Then his jaw went rigid in a way I'd never seen before. "Exposure?" he whispered. "Emotional distress?" "She left her outside?" I watched the realization hit him in stages. Shock, disbelief, horror, guilt, rage, each one landing like a heavy boot on soft ground. "She did that to her," he said quietly. "My mother did that to her." I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to explain. He read the report again from the top, slower this time. Then he set it down with a kind of trembling precision, like if he wasn't careful he'd snap the table in half. "Okay," he said. "Okay." And in that okay, I heard it. The sound of a man stepping out of his old life and into a new one. A man finally choosing his wife and daughter over the shadow of a family he'd spent his entire life tiptoeing around. Without another word, he walked into the living room and grabbed his laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Ending it," he said. He opened our banking app. He clicked through screens with this terrifying calm. He stopped every recurring transfer, every monthly help, every emergency fund he'd kept filling for Linda. Years of guilt payments evaporated with a few taps. When he finished, he typed one short message on his phone. "Financial support is terminated." He hit send. "That's it," he said. "She doesn't get another cent from us." I sat down slowly, because standing felt like trying to balance on a tightrope in a windstorm. Ruby looked up from her blanket fortress on the couch. "Daddy, are you mad?" He knelt in front of her immediately. "Not at you," he said. "Never at you." "Grandma said I'm not real family," she murmured. His face broke in a way I'll remember for the rest of my life. "Sweetheart," he whispered, "you are my whole family." I was about to join them when his phone rang. Unknown number. Of course it was. He hesitated, then hit speaker. Linda didn't even wait for a hello. "Miles, how dare you do this to me?" Her voice blasted through the kitchen like a smoke alarm made of accusation and entitlement. "You cut me off? After everything I've done for you? After everything we've survived? And now the police are calling my house asking questions about your daughter." He didn't answer. He just stared at the phone like it had personally betrayed him. "How could you?" she shrieked. "She's lying, Miles. Ruby is lying. Your wife put her up to this, I know it." I felt Ruby tense beside me. I placed a hand on her shoulder. "She was cold because she went outside," Linda ranted. "Kids get cold. That's not a crime. And now, the police are at my door." So they had followed up. Not that Linda would ever admit what she told them. "Mom," Miles said quietly, "you left my daughter outside during a birthday party." "She could come in any time," Linda snapped. "She just wanted attention. And you You ungrateful child! You dare cut off my money? Do you know how embarrassing this is? Do you know what people will think? Do you know—" He pressed the red button. The silence that followed felt holy. Ruby exhaled. Miles exhaled. I exhaled. Then he turned the phone off completely. I put a hand on his arm. "Hey," I said softly. "You okay?" He sat beside me on the couch, leaning forward like he needed to feel the ground under him. "I knew she played favorites," he said. "I knew she didn't like you. I knew she still held on to the past. But I didn't know she—" He stopped, swallowed, shook his head. "I didn't know she could do that to a child." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. "And I'm done," he whispered. "With all of it. With pretending she's someone she isn't. With explaining away the things she does. With making excuses. With sacrificing you and Ruby just to keep the peace." He took my hand. His grip was warm, steady, certain. "We protect our daughter," he said. "From now on, no matter what." I nodded. Then together, we typed the final message. "We are no longer in contact. Do not reach out again." We hit send. Then we blocked every number. And the moment the last block turned green, I swear the entire house felt quieter, like someone had turned off a machine we'd all grown used to humming in the background. For the first time in years, it felt like the three of us were standing on the same side of the line. And on the other side, a storm gathering, one we had just refused to walk into ever again. I thought the phone call from Linda was the finale. Turns out it was just the overture. Her real performance started the next morning. I woke up, checked my phone, and nearly dropped it on my face. Linda had posted a Facebook essay, one of those pastel backgrounds with whimsical font that screams, "Gather round, I'm the victim now." It began with, "Some people destroy families and then use the police to punish grandparents." And it only got less reasonable from there. She wrote about parental alienation, cheaters weaponizing the system, and grandchildren being stolen. She mentioned me by name. Well, not name, but the kind of vague, self-pitying description everyone knows is about me. She ended with, "I tried to teach morals, and this is the thanks I get." If delusion had a fragrance, this post would have reeked of it. I was about to show Miles when notifications started popping like popcorn. Amber commented, "We all know what really happened." Some cousin I barely knew wrote, "Praying for healing." One woman chimed in with, "Grandparents have no rights anymore." I wanted to reply, "Rights revoked due to being a terrible human. Try again." But I restrained myself. Growth. Miles came out of the bathroom with his hair sticking up and said, "Why is my phone vibrating like it's possessed?" I handed him mine. He read the post once, exhaled through his nose, and said, "Okay. No, we're not doing this." He sat next to me on the bed, cracked his knuckles like he was about to defuse a bomb, and typed a response that was the emotional equivalent of a scalpel. For anyone confused, Ruby, 7, was told by her grandmother, "This party is not for cheaters' kids." She was kept outside for the entire party. No coat, no food, no access to the bathroom. She watched through the window. We took her to urgent care. Medical notes show she had been outside for too long and was emotionally distressed. He attached a redacted photo of the discharge summary. That was it. No insults, no theatrics, just facts. Linda's post was a fire. Miles's comment was a fire extinguisher, and suddenly, people weren't sure which way to run. A neighbor commented first. "I saw her outside when we left for groceries, and again when we came back. I thought she was just waiting for someone. My heart is breaking." Another person from church said, "I had no idea, but this matches other things I've seen." And then a relative, one who'd always stayed neutral, posted, "She's called my kids cheaters' kids during fights. We stopped visiting because of it." I didn't breathe for a solid 5 seconds. Then came parents from Linda's childcare circle. This was the part we hadn't accounted for, because we never treated her little babysitting side business like a real thing. It wasn't an official daycare, just 2 or 3 families from church who dropped their kids off a few mornings a week. Pocket money. Something she did to feel needed. Feel needed and wield power look very similar in her hands. But now those parents were seeing exactly how she treated children she didn't approve of. Messages started sliding in, screenshots sent to me privately. I'm pulling my daughter out. I can't risk this. I thought it was strange she never let the kids play outside unless she watched them like hawks. Thank you for posting the truth. And then, the church board is asking her to step back until things settle. So she'd lost. Her imagined moral high ground, her reputation, her childcare income, her church standing. The meltdown was already spectacular, but the universe wasn't done. Around noon, Miles's phone lit up with a number he didn't recognize. He answered, put it on speaker. A calm voice said, "Miles, it's Walter." We both froze. Linda almost never talked about her brother. I assumed it was because he lived out of state and was busy being financially successful and emotionally stable, both things she resented in others. "I just saw the mess online," Walter said. "I called your mother. She's hysterical, blaming you, blaming Lydia, blaming gravity." That tracked. Then he said something that nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. "You know that house she lives in? The one where all this happened? It's mine." I mouthed, "What?" at Miles. Walter continued, "She's been living there rent-free for years. I paid the taxes, the repairs, because I felt bad after her divorce. I thought she needed help. Turns out I enabled her nastiest streak." I sat there stunned, because apparently this entire time Linda had been torturing my self-esteem inside a house that wasn't even hers. Walter wasn't finished. "I told her this morning she has 90 days to move out." Miles blinked. "You what?" "I'm reclaiming the property," Walter said. "She used my house to hurt a child. I won't be part of that." It was the most composed fury I'd ever heard from someone I'd never met. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "I want that house to go to Ruby." My brain short-circuited. "What?" I blurted out louder than intended. Walter chuckled. "You're there? Good. Yes, I want the house transferred to Miles, and eventually to Ruby. She's the one who needs security, not Linda." He went on. "If a child was hurt on that porch, then the least I can do is make sure she's the one protected by it." I covered my face with my hands because suddenly there were too many emotions fighting for space. Vindication, shock, disbelief, something dangerously close to gratitude. "Walter," Miles said, voice shaking. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take care of your family," Walter replied. "Say you won't let her near that girl again." Miles didn't hesitate. "I promise." "Good," Walter said. "Because she's already spiraling. You haven't seen the voicemails she left me. She's screaming about conspiracies and betrayals and how you were her only good son." I snorted. "She has one son." "Exactly," Walter said. "Anyway, the paperwork will be ready next week." He hung up. Miles and I stared at each other. He whispered, "She's going to explode." "Oh, she's mid-explosion," I said. "We're just out of blast range now." Notifications kept pinging. Linda had posted again, this time a blurry selfie of herself crying. "I've been betrayed by my own family." People were now commenting things like, "Wait, did you really leave a 7-year-old outside? This doesn't sound like parental alienation. This sounds like consequences. Taking advantage of your brother's generosity is not being betrayed." Her martyrdom arc was evaporating in real time. I leaned back on the couch, exhausted and strangely at peace for the first time in years. Ruby wandered into the room wearing pajamas with stars on them, rubbing her eyes. "Mom? Dad? Why are you staring at your phones like that?" Miles opened his arms. "Come here, sweetheart." She crawled onto his lap, warm and sleepy. "Are you still mad at Grandma?" she asked. I smoothed her hair. "We're not mad," I said. "We're just done." 6 months later, the world looks nothing like it did on that porch. Linda had to move out, just like Walter said. She's in a tiny studio 2 towns over now, the kind with creaky radiators and windows that look onto a parking lot. She lost most of her friends. Apparently, even the loyal ones scatter when the police call your house and Facebook calls your bluff. Amber didn't get spared either. Word spread. It always does. And suddenly, people knew she'd been part of everything. The whispers, the favoritism, the consequences. Harper had to switch schools after the other moms stopped inviting playdates. Funny how accountability always feels like bullying to the people who caused the harm. And then, in the middle of all that, 2 unexpected calls. The ex and her mother. Both apologizing, both horrified, both saying, "We never wanted this. We didn't know she'd gone this far." For once, I believed them. Meanwhile, Ruby is blooming. She laughs more, sleeps better, has a little group of friends who adore her. She goes to birthday parties where she's wanted, not tolerated. She never brings up her grandmother. Kids know when a chapter is closed. And us? We live in the house now, her old house. A place worth more than $300 grand, gifted because Walter decided it should protect Ruby instead of hurting her. So what do you think? Did we go too far? Or not far enough? Let me know in the comments. And subscribe for more.